Welcome back. This is the Gigi Report. I believe you're enjoying this conversation. My guest here is telling me a lot of very, very interesting history, background to conflicts, and you know how elections kind of become major triggers of conflict. And so we continue with this conversation, and I'm going to be asking our guest a few more questions. Mr. Gesho, I think you know, you need to speak a little bit more on these elections as sources of conflict in Africa, and why we just can't get it right. What are we missing? I mean, you've monitored so many elections. I was going to ask you what is the greatest challenge, but clearly I think elections
is one.
Yes.
And of course, corruption is the major monster.
Okay.
If there was no corruption, we wouldn't have to have bad elections.
Oh,
yeah.
Talk about that.
I am informed by my involvement in UN electoral circles in different countries. Mm-hmm. For example, I did 2 different elections in Sierra Leone.
Okay.
Right? And I did 3 in Liberia.
Okay.
Those are African countries.
Yes.
Within Africa. Mm-hmm. I did elections in South Africa. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you this, because the UN was in charge in Sierra Leone and in Liberia, of course with local participation, because the Electoral Commission had to be from locals.
Yes.
But the UN provided the logistics and the security. Mm-hmm. There was no conflict about the outcome.
Okay.
In South Africa, it was run by the locals.
Okay.
There was no conflict. In Cambodia, everything was done by the UN, from security to logistics to employment of staff.
Okay.
Even in Indonesia, East Timor, and in other places where I've worked, we cannot, divorce poor electoral management and conflict.
Yes.
We cannot. And in Kenya, we must get a system which allows the Electoral Commission to be properly independent.
Yes.
But also, which does not give the politicians the authority or a leeway to interfere. I think one of our key problems in Kenya is that our laws are very weak.
You can talk about that.
We have very weak laws. Mm-hmm. Laws on elections are not properly, they could be a little bit tighter. Mm-hmm. But especially laws on integrity. Mm-hmm. Laws on integrity are very weak in Kenya. Chapter 6 in the Constitution is very specific.
Yes.
But when you come to, Chapter 6 is like the skeleton.
Yes.
But when you flesh out into the laws which now have to do with integrity, transparency, good governance, everything, how to punish crimes and all of that. Mm-hmm. One of the things which I've never understood is why a corruption case or a murder case should take so long. Why somebody should be walking away in the name of bail. Mm-hmm. I always believe within Africa, the best example I want to quote, although people say that is not democratic, but what is democracy if it does not give fairness?
Okay.
What is democracy if it doesn't give justice? Okay. Right? Mm-hmm. Rwanda, for me, how they deal with corruption or with all manner of crimes, for me, that would be the ideal situation for Kenya.
Right.
Take away this comfort of bail. Push it aside. Let somebody sit in there and do their case from behind bars. That will mean that the judiciary must work quickly to meet set timelines.
Okay, because the man is inside.
Because the man is inside. If he stays there long and he comes out and is innocent, he sues the state for compensation.
Okay.
That should be in the law.
Yes.
So that those who arrest and put people behind bars are very sure that this is our culprit and is guilty. Then they will not just be arresting anyone.
Because you have a kind of a disclaimer on the other side,
yes,
whereby if you keep someone, say, for 6 months in
Yes.
jail, you're still going back and forth.
It shouldn't even take 6 months.
Let's say a case
But
like
if you
that.
keep them-
so if the law
Yeah.
provides that the case must be concluded in 3 months,
It
in
should
90
be done.
days, or
Mhm.
say
It
120
should be-
days.
it should be done.
Yeah. So, and especially if the crime is clearly prosecutable. So in other words, you are saying,
Let me tell you this. There in international jurisdictions, we are trying too much to look like we are a Western state.
yes,
In Africa, how did people treat rape within our societies? In fact, in some societies, you were banished completely. You were never allowed into that community again.
yes,
All right? And you had to pay a hefty fine. How did they treat murder? We should look at it that way. Within our societies,
yes,
if you murdered somebody and it was without provocation, a council of elders had to sit and make a decision, and you would be banished and you would never ever set your foot there.
yes,
Right? What about theft? You had to pay twice or thrice or even 10 times more in some communities because it was frowned upon. Here in Kenya, if they give you a government job and you end up not looking very opulent, then you are stupid. There are some communities who say, wewe bwana, wewe unataabika huko na wewe uko na kazi. They expect you to steal. That is the psychology we have in Kenya now. If you have a job, steal. But the question is, why should you steal when you took that job knowing the salary you will be getting? You get what I'm saying?
yeah. I mean, it's published.
It is published. Before you apply, you know how much you're going to earn.
Yes,
So why should you get a job and then steal from the public? In fact, my view is that anyone who misappropriates public funds is an enemy of the people and should be declared as such. In China, they are shot in public, executed.
okay,
In Japan, they fall on the sword. In Korea, too. Here,
we let everybody
we
get
let
away with it.
everybody get away. That's why our parliament today is full of very questionable characters. We have people who are called honorables, but they have murder cases.
Absolutely.
Sorry to get that personal to them, but I don't mean to be personal.
Absolutely.
But it's a puzzle. In other jurisdictions, these guys would be in jail.
Okay.
There are 3 cases of people I know who have been charged with murder, maybe 4 or 5, and they are around, gallivanting and being waheshimiwa with security and public money, sustaining them. Why should that be the case? Do we really need that in this country? And the other point is, these are the politicians. We can look at our country and say, we have the younger generation. We call them the millennials, right?
Yes.
Then we have the other guys. Then we have the other older generation. The older generation grew up under the British. Some of us read about the British. I'm sure possibly you also read about the British.
Yes.
I read about them too.
I was born at the turn of that event.
Yeah. So you cannot really understand what our parents went through,
Yes.
right? But they knew that things worked. When you listen to them,
Yes.
there was no corruption. You didn't have to bribe. There was racism, of course, and colonialism, which were terrible.
Yes.
But you didn't have to bribe to get an ID. You had to go, and if it is 10 cents, you pay 10 cents, you get your ID, or it was given to you under whatever conditions. But here,
So hold it there.
Yes.
Bwana Ngesu, I think we need to tell our young people, because there are a lot of people who look at the colonialism as this evil that was done to our people, and that these guys are guilty 100%. But now you're mentioning an example of an ID. So when the white man was sitting as the district commissioner and you needed an ID, and you went and queued and applied or whatever you needed to do, you got the ID, you didn't have to pay the guy.
you didn't have to pay anything. It was your right to get it,
Yes.
right? The Africans used to pay what they called, heart tax.
Okay.
And they would pay that tax. Of course, it was imposed on them.
Yes, yes, yes.
But once you pay your taxes, you are entitled to service. So we say in Kenya, no taxation without representation, right?
Yes.
But then what about no representation and no taxation without service?
Absolutely. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
So I think in summary, because I think it's a big conversation, there are some things we have to pack away. So you see a situation in our nation where, in terms of governance, there are many ways in which we have failed. So our laws are weak, and I think that's the bit you're talking about.
That's a major problem.
Weak, systems of ensuring that corruption as a thing is totally unacceptable and impractical and very expensive. And did you say that Rwanda is doing a good job? Maybe you can touch that a little bit.
They have done well in fighting corruption.
Okay.
I think I read somewhere that even the brother of the president had to go to jail. Mm-hmm. He lost his job and he had to go to jail for being involved in some shady deal. That is President Kagame's brother.
Yes.
I have said to my own brothers, if I ever become president of Kenya, although I am not in politics, if they should never expect anything for free from me.
Okay.
And if they are corrupt, they will go to jail like every other criminal.
Absolutely.
Because this country's future and the future and welfare of our children is much more important than our own stomachs.
Absolutely.
I have lived in countries where you get service. I lived in Switzerland for a long time. And I never had to give anybody a bribe. And when you spoke the truth, they respected you. Like there was a time I was driving. It was a winter, morning. And as I took, it's like where you go to a T-junction. Traffic is coming from the right. You are turning left. There is no continuation. But as I was taking the corner, I saw a vehicle coming very fast. They had jumped the light. There was a traffic light there. And I started moving when the light turned green. So this guy came and he passed me. No, he actually came behind me, but he was coming so fast. And he rammed into a light post and a wall.
Yes.
And in that country, when you ram into a wall or a lamp post, your insurance pays.
Yes.
I decided to stop and wait for the police, although I was innocent.
Yes.
So when the police asked me to explain what happened, I told them what I observed. And then they asked me, why did you stop and wait and you were innocent?
Yes.
I told them because that man there, I was afraid he would give my name, the number of my car, and then he would say it's me who caused the accident.
Yes.
But I needed to be here so that I can explain what happened.
Yeah.
The police, of course, they have their cameras.
Yes.
This guy forgot their cameras.
Yes.
They went, they checked, and they wrote me a nice letter. And they said, you spoke the truth and you are innocent. The other guy will pay for his own car. Because he was asking me to pay and also pay for the
for the post.
For the post and
the
wall.
So anyway, in Kenya, you can crash any public...
no, I wish and I hope I can get access to our governor in Nairobi.
Yes.
I think, or even one of the MCAs, I wish they could have a law like that.
Yes.
Getting service and not having to bribe. Really working hard, because that is another element we lack in this country.
Okay.
Kenyans claim they work hard. But really, honestly, compared to other countries where I've been, even compared to my own office, Kenyans don't work hard. People in the private sector work hard. But in public sector, a few of them, the higher ups maybe, and a few of the people. But majority of the people earn free money in our offices here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why would you actually go and apply for a document and have to wait for 2 weeks or even a month?
If people are working.
If people are working. It's completely unacceptable. In many countries, you clear your day's job. Or you give yourself 2 days. If you apply for a document now, even a passport, you'll be told to come after 2 days.
In many countries?
In many countries, or 3. Not even a week.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So let's talk about What are some of the, I wanted us to talk about institutions. I think you've already mentioned one, the IEBC, and some of the weaknesses you see. What are the other institutions in this country that you think we need to pay attention to and strengthen? If we're going to...
The judiciary, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, they have a very important job. They must be funded. But also, the judges and the magistrates and everyone, you know, even all the courts, need to walk away from corruption. They need to walk away from corruption. Our judiciary comes across as not very clean. That's a perception. I'm not saying they are not clean, but the perception the public have is that justice belongs to those who can pay for it.
And
Am I wrong?
Yeah, and the question remains, you could be wrong, but then now, okay, so, but you're very clear, it's a perception.
It's a perception.
So if it is a perception, then somebody has got to correct that perception.
Exactly.
And the people have to be convinced that actually it is not true.
Yeah.
Actually, when you go, you will get justice.
The other institution is the police. The police, I have seen police collecting bribes left, right, and center. But when you read their standing orders and their rules, they shouldn't be doing that.
Okay.
The administration, you know, the chiefs, they have not changed. We need to change this country. We need to remove corruption from our national psyche. We need to reboot our minds and move away from corruption, because that is what will give the young people jobs. Imagine all the money which gets lost through corruption. And if that money was utilized for job creation.
Yes.
Do you know how many jobs we would have? We would have so many jobs.
And you know, you're right, because let's assume that the reason, say, like a passport delays for 2 weeks is because there are not enough people. But then, let's assume, because that's an assumption. But you're saying, first, people don't work as hard as they pretend to work.
Exactly.
And number two, if there was shortage, there would be a focus to ensure if somebody really meant to get that job done, they would employ the right number of people.
Yeah.
And those salaries, they are medium salaries. They need not to be high because it's a paperwork. And they can get services delivered.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And in good time.
And in good time.
Without bribing anyone.
Meaning that then there's labor saving on the part of people who are applying.
Exactly.
You don't have to go and queue there for
Exactly.
it. Absolutely.
Then, you know, there is the other thing. When I talk like this, by the way, one of the politicians, a good friend of mine, once said to me, Gilbert, you're very naive. I looked at him and I was like, this guy, you know, I actually said to him, you know, I talk like this to hear the other side of the story.
Yes.
But the thing is, we must move away from the corruption as a country.
Yes.
I didn't tell you this, but one of the other things I've done besides governance issues, I have actually advised. I advise leadership, ministries. I actually advised a president, not even one, 2 different presidents.
Yes.
One of them specifically on how to fight corruption.
Yes.
But because it was a dangerous job, I never talked loudly about it until I left the country.
Yes, because
you cannot state that you are responsible for the sacking of a minister or even of a speaker of parliament, because
you get crucified.
We pushed that.
Yeah.
And you know, the person they could see talking was the head of the UN mission.
Yes.
The Under-Secretary General. And you know, that is a very senior person in the UN.
Yes.
In Kenya, we have only had one Under-Secretary General, Mukisa Kitui.
Okay.
But look at the way we are treating him. This is a resource. This man. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We should go and bring him to the national
conversation.
I don't even know the man, by the way.
Yes.
I've never met. I met only the wife when there was Ebola in West Africa, and she came there.
Yes.
As part of the UN response team. She moved from Nairobi because she's a doctor, you know, to Liberia. She is the only one I met. But this man, I've never met him. But the job he has been doing is an extremely important job. He can tell you a lot about trade and how the international system works.
So
You know.
there's a story I really want us to touch before we run out of time.
Yeah.
The Liberia story.
Yes.
And I want you to tie that to how the socio-economic design of a country can be a source of conflict, that even if you put in the right institutions, at the bottom, the spiritual climate and the things that inform a national psyche can be so wrong that a country can actually continue to conflict.
You know, I saw in Liberia a lot of very senior clergy.
Yes.
But when you got closely to them and you understood what they stood for, you found that these people, though they would wear their big collars and their big rings and their crucifix and carry the things.
Yes.
What do you call those sticks they carry in
Yeah,
church?
yeah, and all that, yes.
I'm not condemning anyone, but I was disappointed, not with all of them, but with many of them, that these are the people who would be running around after young ladies, right? Committing all manner of, sin, criminalities. They never raised their voice when those in authority did things which were wrong. And the most telling of this thing was that many of them were involved in what mainstream Christianity in Kenya, for example, considers occult.
Okay.
Okay? They were involved in
darkness,
basically. I understand here we have also had the same. People in leadership being members of the Freemasons and all of that. And of course, the Freemasons, they will tell you it's a church. It's not, they are not a religious organization. They are just Masons, whatever. But when you read about them, you cannot say they are believers in God. They lift other things. I will say that to my own detriment. But that is what people say in this country.
Okay.
I mean, that is what happens. In that country, you can never be a leader unless you are a member. Right? You're talking about the spiritual thing. In Kenya, I think the younger generation especially needs to go back in history and read about people like the late Alexander Muge. Was he the Bishop of Eldoret?
Yes, the
right?
Catholic Bishop of Eldoret.
The late Ndingi Mwananzeki. Right? Read about Timothy Njoya. Timothy Njoya is still around.
Yes.
They can go online and see how Njoya...
I would love to interview him if you can arrange.
I can't. Njoya used to come to talk to us when we were in Alliance High School.
Okay.
But, I got to know him, of course, when I was at the university because he was in St. Andrew's Church.
Yes.
But after that, we lost contact. But he is a man who would speak about the struggles Kenya has gone through to get this expression we have today. Before I couldn't speak like this.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, you get in trouble.
At one time, as a kid, I had to run out of this country because as a student leader, I was targeted. A friend of mine within the CID department told me, get out of this country. And I got out of the country. Because I used to talk about we need a new constitution. Basic things, which today are not issues.
You were talking about needing a new constitution in which year?
This was in 1990. I was actually teaching at the University at Kenyatta at that time. 1991.
You were quoting trouble.
I was told to get out of Kenya, and that's how I organized to leave Kenya now.
Absolutely.
I didn't say that before.
Yeah. So I think that's very profound. I know we are just have 2 minutes or so to wrap this up. Clearly, I think you've shared with us a lot of very, very profound things. But I want you to speak to the church leaders in the remaining few minutes, 2 minutes, okay, or under 1 minute or thereabout. What we need to pay attention to now that we can celebrate that clearly, church, very church-friendly Christian man, by and large, and because I can't speak for him, the current president, so we can say, yes, we have a man there who is approachable, a clear Christian, in all practical sense. I want you to speak to the Christian leaders. What should we need to do if we are going to take this government forward?
The church needs to hold the government to account.
Okay.
Yeah? We cannot say because the president professes Christianity, therefore we go to sleep.
Okay.
Right? President Moi used to say he's a Christian. But what happened under Moi?
Yes.
I can show you scars on my body. I was clobbered by the police. I was arrested by the police, serving under Moi's name. And when I looked at what I had done, I hadn't done anything. I can tell you those things.
So what you're telling Christians right now?
The church should not go to sleep.
By that, what do you mean by that?
They should not pretend that they can't see evil or hear evil. They should keep their independence.
Yes.
Of course, we have a duty to pray for the government as believers. Yeah? We must pray for the president because the Bible says this. And it's something I've told my friends. The heart of the king is in the hands of God.
Absolutely.
Right? Mm-hmm. And the Bible also says this. Pray for those in leadership that it may go well with them. Because when it goes well with them, it will also go well with us. You, yes. With us.
Yes.
Now, for me, this means, I'm not saying that the president loots the country until he's very rich, because that will be going well for him. I'm saying that we pray for him that he will lead properly, with a conscience, with fairness, with integrity. And I believe he can do it.
Absolutely.
The other final thing is, maybe, I don't know whether the president ever watches this program. Mm-hmm. The president needs to get around himself people of integrity.
Yes.
Some of those characters around him have no integrity. If now some of us know, and we are in the public space, what about those who know those people privately?
Big question. We will leave it there, but I think you've said it. Your message is clear. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Gigi Report. We got to bring this to a close. Thank you so much for paying attention, listening to us. Thank you that my guest, Mr. Ngeshu, thank you very, very, very much indeed. We truly appreciate the time you've given to us. Busy man. Thank you and good night. Thank you. Stay tuned. Keep it Elevate TV. We'll see you another day. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.